Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. Oh, it's so hot. First up for T&D today, we have the I Can Fix It mug with a backwards tape measure. And inside of it, I don't have a box for it because it was a random tea bag that I found. Because apparently I'm out of green tea entirely. But it is Salada brand green tea. I think I probably took it from a hotel or something like over a year ago at this point. So it's pretty weak, but you know, it's still getting the job done. Don't know that I can super recommend it because it's definitely not my favorite, but it is functional for what we need today. Apologies that I did not have an episode out yesterday. I forgot that it was Monday yesterday. I basically have just worked straight through for over a week now, and I did not realize the weekend had come and gone. So apologies for that. But we are going to get right back into the swing of things here. And we're going to pick up where we left off last week with the new Unearthed Arcana for One D&D. We're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about the species that they gave us and the rules updates that they gave us as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's just dive straight on into it. Let's go ahead and kick it off with the species. That is the wrong page. I need to have this up so I can actually read. They gave us 3 different species to take a look at and work with in this here update. They gave us the Ardling, they gave us the Dragonborn, and they gave us the Goliath. So let's go ahead and break those down real quick and see what we got. Obviously, the Ardling is a different species. It is a new one. We have not had this one in official material yet, so there's nothing to compare this one to, which is fine. That's cool. It's not a big deal. Honestly, it is cool that they are like still pushing and expanding past the ones that we have already, while still, going and updating the ones that we do have. So the Ardling, and this is more or less true for all of them in general, all of the updated species that we have seen. Important to note, they're replacing race with species. If you didn't catch that last time when I talked about the cleric, but they're going to go ahead and do that. So the Ardling, they're celestial beasts that roam the beast lands, a plane of untamed beauty and wild nature. Many of those serve the beast lords, blah blah blah. Ardlings are kind of like Aasimar, but with animal beasts, animal angels instead of humanoid angels. So creature type humanoid, that's pretty standard. Size, you can either be medium or small, you pick. That is also relatively standard here. Speed of 30 feet, 200-year lifespan, and as an Ardling adventurer, you get a special trait known as your animal ancestry. You're descended from a celestial animal. You pick the one when you create the character, and that is what you go ahead and get. There are 4 different types here. There are the climbers, the flyers, the racers, or the swimmers. Climbers are bear, cat, lizard, squirrel. Flyers are bat, eagle, owl, raven. Racer, deer, dog, horse, triceratops. Swimmer, crocodile, dolphin, frog, shark. Obviously, you can expand past that. You could be a barracuda. You don't have to be a shark. But that is just sort of like the scope that they're giving you with those. The climbers give you a climb speed equal to your speed because you have claws, nails, tails, something like that. And once per turn, when you hit a target with an unarmed strike, you can increase the damage equal to your proficiency bonus, which is an interesting thing. It will definitely be something that gives rise to a lot of monks, particularly if you are playing only a low level, because they won't get their unarmed movement up vertical surfaces then. So it just the ability to add that extra little bit of damage, that's kind of like rage damage almost, but it's once per turn. Yeah, once per turn instead of every time. Flyers give you little vestigial wings, and as a result, when you fall at least 10 feet, you can use your reaction to glide, taking no damage from the fall. In addition, you can jump and get advantage by taking your little wings and flapping a little bit. So this is built-in slow fall if you are playing, as somebody who's not a monk. It's actually kind of interesting to me that they are not putting any sort of cap on it. Like maybe after a certain amount you need to make a constitution check or something like that, but we will see what it actually turns into if it does stick around, which it seems like it will because I had heard of this one before, but we'll see. Racers, when you take the dash action, your speed increases for that action equal to 10 times your proficiency bonus. So you are moving extra fast. So if you are going to go ahead and take the dash action at level 1, suddenly instead of moving 30 feet, you can move 100 feet because your speed increases, and the dash doubles your speed. It allows you to move your speed again. So you're going, instead of 30, you're going 50 and 50. So if you're dashing, you are running. So it is aptly named as the racers. Swimmer, hold your breath for up to an hour, and you have a swim speed equal to your speed. In addition, you get resistance to cold, which is a very good thing and not something to sneeze at for sure. You also get a feature called Divine Magic. I was going to say Divine Magic, but it is hard to call it that with the Divine Spell list now. You can automatically learn the Thaumaturgy spell, and whenever you finish a long rest, you can replace that spell with a different cantrip or 0-level spell from the Divine Spell list. You pick your casting ability for that one, and you go ahead and you roll with it from there. So if you are playing a Wisdom-based character, you can pick Wisdom. If you're playing a Charisma-based character, you can pick Charisma. It is just that simple. And then you get proficiency in Perception. So, all in all, very, very good, it looks like, with the options that you have. A little bit more like detail customization, which is going to be a theme that you might notice here. Moving forward to Dragonborn. Once again, creature type is humanoid. Size for this one is just medium. Speed is 30 feet. Lifespan is about 80 years. You pick up a Draconic Ancestry, which, again, the last time we saw this one, they did not include the gem dragons, which, again, they do not do here, which I am annoyed by, but it's fine. It's fine, I guess. They don't have to if they don't want to. Your breath weapon in this is replacing one of the attacks in your attack action, which is actually significantly better than having to use your full action to do so. Let's see. The saving throw is the same, and on failed save, they take d10s of your draconic damage type instead of d6s, which is, again, very helpful. But you are still not increasing at a rate, which is super good. Now that you are not using an action, it is significantly better. But when you are 17th level, 4d10 in a little like cone right in front of you isn't necessarily going to be the greatest thing in the world, depending on what class you are and what you have access to actually be able to do. So, kind of take that one with a grain of salt. We will see if we can actually do anything with it. However, you do get to use it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus between long rests, which is better than the once or twice or whatever it was originally. I know that they updated it with Fizzbands, but I'm sort of looking all the way back and at the midpoint here. You get resistance based on your Draconic type. That's not new. Dark Vision, 60 feet. Great. Draconic Flight, when you reach 5th level, you can channel your energy as a bonus action to sprout spectral wings for 10 minutes or until you are incapacitated. During that time, you can fly your speed, and they appear to be made of the energy used in your breath weapon, which is pretty cool. And you can use it once per long rest. So that is actually something that is very, very interesting, very, very good. It is kind of like the Protector Aasimar. What is it called? The Divine Form thing. I can't remember what it's actually called. Where they get wings, but theirs are only for a minute. These are for 10 minutes. This is actually a very, very good feature. And I'm glad that Dragonborn are getting something that allows them to fly, because it just feels like they needed it for such a long time. So overall, I think it is a pretty good step forward for the Dragonborn. Goliath, again, creature type humanoid, medium, 35 feet, which is great. 80-year lifespan. You gain a giant ancestry. You don't just gain the stone's endurance kind of thing, or resistance cold damage, or whatever other stuff you might have had originally. You have the option picking between Cloud Giant, Fire Giant, Frost Giant, Hill Giant, Stone Giant, or Storm Giant. Each of them gets you something different. Cloud Giants allow you to magically teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Important note, each of the things that you can do with these equal number of times per long rest equal to your proficiency bonus. So you can teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you can see. Basically, Misty Step for the Cloud Giant. Makes sense. Fire Giant, when you hit a target with an attack roll, you deal extra d10 of fire damage to it. So this is actually very good because you can choose to do it after you hit, which means that it can be like a mini smite kind of thing. You can go ahead and stack that damage. That's important. Frost Giant, when you hit somebody with an attack roll, you can deal an extra 1d6 cold damage in addition to reducing its speed by 10 feet until the start of its next turn. Again, after you hit, important. When you hit something, Hill Giant, when you hit something that is large or smaller, you can go ahead and just knock it prone. No saving throw required, which is excessively powerful. Stone's Endurance, basically the exact same thing that we know right now. Roll a d12, add con modifier, reduce damage by that total, except you can use it up to the number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And Storm Giant, you take damage from a creature within 60 feet of you, you can use your reaction to deal a d8 of thunder damage to that creature by causing, a blast of thunder to hit it. This is probably very good for those longer range people, but if you are a melee fighter, it is not going to be something that you want to burn a reaction on for 1d8 of damage. Honestly, if you're a spellcaster and you are at least 5th level, you're going to want to keep that for a counterspell probably. So, that one's okay. It's not my favorite, but we will see how it actually ends up being. Large form, starting at 5th level. You can use a bonus action to change your size to large. It lasts for 10 minutes. During that time, you have advantage on strength checks, and your speed increases by 10 feet once per long rest. So you're basically enlarging yourself with a little bit of extra stuff in there, which is very interesting and very good. Powerful build. Advantage on saving throw to end the grappled condition on yourself. You also count as one size larger when determining carrying capacity, etc. So very, very good overall. I think that it is the most neutral move in there, but I do really like the variety in the giant ancestry that you get. That is something I'm a big fan of. So let's go take a look at the feats real quick, because they didn't actually add any feats. They only added epic boons, which again, they have replaced the 20th level feature of classes with an epic boon. They moved that 20th level to 18th level. So the epic boon is something that you get at 20th level, regardless of your class or anything like that, assuming you have gone the full way to 20. So what they have added this time is the epic boon of fate. When another creature within 60 feet of you makes a d20 test, which is just a d20 roll, you can roll a d10 and apply that bonus as a bonus or a penalty to that roll. Once you use it, you can't use it again until you roll initiative or you finish a short or long rest. Epic boon of spell recall. You can cast any spell you have prepared without expending a spell slot, provided the spell is 5th level or lower. Once you do so, can't do it again until you finish a long rest. I know that this one is slightly worse than the one in 5th edition because I have been looking at epic boons recently, and I just know that this one is like a tiny bit worse than the 5th edition version of Boon of Epic Recall. And epic boon of True Sight. You get True Sight at 60 feet. That's it. That's the end of it. So good stuff. I'm glad that they are going to be using some of the ones that we have, adjusting them a little bit. But I am excited to see the new ones that we might be getting here. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the changes specifically to the rules that have happened. The changes to the rules glossary that have happened in this one. There's a short list here, and we're going to just go ahead and we're going to take a look at it. First off, Aid, the spell Aid. This new version of the spell Aid grants temporary hit points instead of increasing base hit points. It is up to 6 creatures that you can choose within range. You don't have to see them, which is helpful, but it is all temporary hit points, which kind of, to me, undercuts the benefit of Aid at the beginning, which is to be able to actually bolster your allies' health. And while I know that 3 creatures is not always super great, I know that, just Aid... I really like Aid, and I'm kind of bummed that they changed it to temporary hit points, at least in this one. Specifically, under the attack action, they changed the equipping weapons. You can equip or unequip a weapon before or after each attack you make as part of the attack action, including an unarmed strike attack. So, they are more or less saying, don't worry about drawing and stowing weapons. That's basically what they're saying. They're like, it doesn't matter that much. The Spell Banishment. This was another one that I'm not super sure that I love, but that's okay. Still 4th level spell. You attempt to send a creature that you can see into another plane of existence. Charisma saving throw. Still, it is transported immediately to a harmless demiplane for the duration. Target can willingly fail. While it's in the demiplane, it is incapacitated. At the end of each of its turns, it can repeat this, the save, and the spell lasts for a minute. If it is an aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, or fiend, it doesn't return. Instead, it is randomly transported to a location of its original to a random location on its original plane. So the reason I don't love this one is because it doesn't just send things that are from a different plane away, which is what it really feels like it should do to me. I do kind of like the fact that it can make the save at the end of each of its turns, because while it is frustrating as a player to have that happen to you, or to have them save like 6 rounds into it, also as a player, if you get banished, you want to be able to get out of it, I promise. So, you know, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B there. And you don't have to just rely on your party to try and break concentration, and you're not just stuck elsewhere. I also, it had some fun role play, like, implications when you could send people back to a different plane and they had to deal with whatever was on the other side until they could actually make it back. So the fact that everybody goes to a harmless enemy plane, not my favorite, but it's also kind of fine. You can adjust that one as needed. Next up, we have the Grappled Condition. This is a change that I am actually a big fan of. Speed is 0, disadvantage on attack rolls against any target other than your grappler. They can try and move you, but they are slowed, which means they move at half speed, unless you are tiny or 2 sizes smaller than the grappler. Escape. This is the big change here. While grappled, you can make a dexterity or strength saving throw against the grapple's DC at the end of each of your turns. No action required, ending the condition on yourself on a success. The condition also ends if the grappler is incapacitated or if something removes you from the grapple's range. The fact that you don't have to burn an action to get out of a grapple, which functionally is not actually that much of a problem in 5th edition, is really, really fantastic. I'm so glad. Grappling is more of an inconvenience than anything else in 5th edition, because you do have to burn a full action on your turn to actually get away from it, potentially. The fact that you can just do it at the end of a turn makes it feel a lot better, without taking away necessarily the stuff that the grappler can do. So I'm a fan of the new grapple there. Guidance. Updated rules for guidance. And really, it is just that they go ahead and they fix guidance the way it needed to be fixed, which is instead of making an action, they make it a reaction. That is the way that everybody uses it anyway. After they hear, hey, go ahead and make a roll, that is when people cast guidance. So the fact that it is now a reaction with somebody within 10 feet of you, so it's still practically touch, and it's specifically in response to them failing the check. So you don't have to burn your reaction until you know that it's already not going to work, which is so helpful. And it's so much better. It's significantly better. I like it a lot more that way, because again, it is just the way that people use it anyway. After that, influence the action. This one I'm not a huge fan of. It's chunky and weird, and it feels like they just tried to put mechanics to something that everybody kind of does anyway. Influence, basically you attempt to like communicate with a creature that is interacting with you in some way. A DM controlled creature. It is not mind control. You can't force it to do something against its will or counter something or counter its alignment, but it has 3 parts to the action here. There's the attitude of the creature. There's indifference, friendly, or hostile. Those are pretty self-explanatory. It's not hard to figure that one out. There's the interaction, where they then tell you to either roleplay or to describe your character's action towards it. Depending on how that goes, the DM might shift the alignment of the attitude of the creature based on what you say. And then the ability check, where then they specifically tell you that you have advantage if they're friendly, disadvantage if they're hostile. Skills that could be used: animal handling, deception, persuasion, intimidation. DC minimum is 15 for some reason, or the creature's intelligence score, whichever one is higher. The outcome is explained here, and you have to wait for 24 hours to make that request again for some. It is clunky and weird, and I don't really like it all that much, which doesn't mean a whole lot, because like I'm not the one designing this, but I will be making sure that I put that in my review for this thing when they ask for feedback. And so it just is not my favorite. I don't love it, and so it makes it feel more gamey than it needs to for just interacting with something else. But skipping over that, we go to the light weapon property, which is an interesting change. I'm fascinated to see if they decide to keep this one. When you make an attack action with a light weapon in one hand, and you have a light weapon in the other hand, you can make an attack as part of that same attack action with your offhanded attack, using all of these same stipulations where you don't get to add ability score or anything, or ability modifier to the damage or anything like that. But it is part of the attack. However, you can only do it once per turn. So it makes it seem like we honestly might see more like dual wielding fighters and barbarians as opposed to just going for the giant axe or the giant sword, because the reality is that while yes, there is a potential for up to 4d6 damage with your greatsword, you have to hit on all of those twice with that. And when you get the extra attack, if you go attack, attack, attack with short swords, that is 3d6. You have the opportunity to hit on every single one of those d6 individually, as opposed to 2 shots to hit with 2d6 each time. I don't know the math, I didn't do the math, but it seems like we might see some more of that like actually implemented over the game, which could be interesting. Skipping forward to the long rest. This one again is a change that is both good and bad, I think. You regain all your hit points, you regain all your hit dice, good. Maximum HP restored, great. Ability scores restored, I'm glad they spelled that one out. Exhaustion reduced by a level, glad they spelled that out. You cannot take a long rest after you finish one for at least 16 hours. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And I don't like that just because, like, again, while yes, I get what they're trying to do, they're trying to ground it in reality. You can't like take a long rest, wake up, fight something an hour after you wake up, and then go back to sleep immediately. But if you have ever done something wildly strenuous right after you wake up, you're ready to go back to bed. Like, it's not unreasonable to say you could take another long rest or something like that. I don't know if players want to take a long rest after 14 hours. I'm not going to sit there and go, you got to wait another 2 hours before you can do it. I'm just not. Besides, unless it's summertime, the sun isn't going to be out for that whole time, and you're going to be in the evening, in the nighttime, and sometimes people are just traveling, and if travel is still going to be restricted to 8 hours, we haven't seen that yet, but if it's going to be restricted to an 8-hour day before you suddenly start making con saves, and all they are doing is being on the road, this is a weird and stupid stipulation that is unnecessary. Interrupting rest, they do have rules laid out for, which is a great thing. Things that interrupt the rest: combat, casting a spell other than a cantrip, or 1 hour of walking or physical exertion. If the rest was at least an hour before the interruption, you get the benefits of a short rest. You can resume the long rest immediately after the interruption, and if you do so, it requires 1 additional hour to finish per interruption. So that is actually not a bad trade-off, and it is a good way. It's kind of how a lot of people do it anyway, just because it's easier to do that way and just let your players like kind of keep going. I know we were running kind of long here. Let's get through this. So next up is the magic action, which is basically just magic rules again. It essentially says that if you are casting a spell that takes more than the cast time of an action, it requires you to use the magic action every single turn subsequently until you finish. And if you were to have your casting interrupted, like if your concentration is broken because you're concentrating it, the spell fails and you don't expend the spell slot. That is the big thing right there. But otherwise, it makes sense. It is nothing overly special. Prayer of Healing, spell that they adjusted here. Same stuff all around. Casting time of 10 minutes, range of 30 feet, verbal components instantaneous. You go ahead and this one is weird to me. You choose a number of willing creatures equal to your spellcasting ability modifier, which they have kind of gone away from for most things, so it's interesting they're choosing it here, but I guess it makes sense inside of a spell. Each of those creatures that remain in the spell's space for the entire casting gain the benefits of a short rest and regain 2d8 hit points. So that is big. That's very important. You're basically jamming a short rest in 10 minutes for the cost of a spell slot. And then a creature that does this can't then be affected by it again until you finish a long rest, which I don't love. I understand it with the addition of the short rest thing. Don't get me wrong. I believe that is correct. But one of the benefits of like a prayer of healing kind of thing is that you can just do it. As long as you have 10 minutes, you can heal people up some. And so, not my favorite change, but I do really like the fact that you get the short rest benefit in there as well. Hopefully it will encourage people to take more short rests, but we'll kind of see where we go with that one. Priest pack. You get stuff in a priest pack. There's nothing overly interesting in there. Quite frankly, it's not that interesting. Resistance, the spell. New version of it, basically, once again, changed it to a reaction instead of an action, which is so much better. You take it in response to somebody failing a saving throw within 10 feet of you, letting them add a d4. That's the way it should have been from the beginning. Honestly, it really is. And so I'm glad that they went ahead and they did that. Then we have Spiritual Weapon, the spell. This one is the exact same, all the way down to the upcasting. The upcasting is where it changes. When you cast it at a higher level, it increases by a d8 for every single spell slot above second instead of every other, which is so much better. Like, honestly, it is so much better. It's how it should have been. It is a good spell for clerics. It is kind of what they use a lot. I never liked it because it didn't scale well, but I'm really glad that they're changing that. Then True Sight is our last update here, and really it is just kind of like more accurately defining True Sight, and it is expanding it a little bit. You can see in normal and magical darkness. You can see invisible creatures and objects. You can see through illusions automatically. You can see the true form of transformed creatures, and you can see into the ethereal plane. So that is all of our rules on the all of the feats, all of the species, and all of the rules updates on the new One D&D playtest. Let me know what you think about it, because I am a big fan of most of them. I think that they're very interesting. Obviously, I voiced my displeasure when I came across it while I was going through that, and I know that we went long here. I'm sorry about that, but let me know what you think. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at what shows we have today. In no particular order, we have Diary of a Dragon Pit, Star Wars First Resistance, Dungeons and Daddies, Bombarded, Heck of a D&D, Glass Cannon, and the Queer Questers. Go check them out, guys. Let them know that I sent you, because, again, someday somebody is going to say something to me about it, and I'm going to think that it's funny, but until then, I'm going to keep asking you guys to do so. There we go. But that brings me to the end of what I have to talk to you guys about today. So, thank you so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my subscribers. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in subscribing, check out the big button below if you're on YouTube, or subscribe to me wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, I believe that's it. So, with all that said, everybody, don't forget, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.